the vibe at this clinic in Mexico is hope. So that's one of the biggest things I think in a healing journey is you get so wrapped up in the physical, but it's very mental and very spiritual. And so when you start to lean into that and you start to be around people that are speaking hope and you expect miracles, it shifts something in your brain. And then I don't know all the science, but this is my street knowledge, is your cells start to respond.
Welcome to the Experience Miracles podcast, where we help parents find hope, answers, and drug-free help to overcome your child's chronic health challenges. I'm your host, Dr. Tony Ebel, and I'll be sharing my experiences as both a dad and a doctor on every episode. I can take the latest science and neurology of healing and break it down in the most simple and relatable way possible. We'll take on the toughest topics and answer your biggest questions through interviews with other amazing parents and leading experts, leaving you with practical action steps that you can take to help your child heal and thrive. It's time to expect and experience miracles. Let's get started. Okay, Experience Miracles community, I gotta tell you, I feel like I've been kind of how God made me here with the last many episodes. Full throttle scientific neurology nerd. And I know that so many of you parents really love that. You love to unpack all of this neuroscience we get as the podcast promised right out of the gates. We would teach root cause neuroscience. We would get into what's going on with our kiddos and get way deeper and way more complete and really give you the actual truth, neuroscience, deepest root causes. And then we would explain them to you, not just through my nerdy way and all the nerdy words, but we would bring that Iowa farmer, simple explanation so that you can understand it, but most importantly, take action and do something about it and get your kids and your family healing. But I also promised that I would make the podcast have enough sharing from my own experience, not just clinically and being a neurologically focused doctor, but being a dad. And today I felt like the timing, as God lined up this interview with Zack Ponder from the Unspecial podcast, father of 4 incredible kids who he homeschools, husband to his rock star wife who has been going through and winning an incredible cancer journey. He's an entrepreneur, he's an author, he's a podcaster, he's a dude, he's a bro, he's a Southern California surfer. I have had the blessing of doing incredibly impactful interviews with some of my favorite people on the planet, and you're not supposed to pick favorites, but I'm a dude and I'm a dad and I've got a big heart for serving the most challenged special needs autism community, just like Zack. So I don't know how to not vote this one my absolute favorite. And the timing was incredible because going into this week, and as we get, this interview is going to come out kind of towards the end of the year. It's going to come out as we climb the ladder towards 200 episodes released here on the podcast. God is good. It's been an incredible journey I can't even describe. But I feel like the last many episodes and podcasts, I forgot to work in enough of that dad-parent relationship experience story. And I feel like I got a little extra heavy, which is pretty easy for me to do, talking science. So the timing of this was really all God, as it always is. And we get into some cool science in this one. It's me, so there's a minute or two here and there where we're talking about something, and I'll do a quick little neuro explanation of it. But it's really just a real life talk about how hard and difficult, but also beautiful and transformative and resilience and adaptability building it is to be a parent of a child with autism and with special needs. Zack's experience is really difficult to break down here on the introduction and giving you his bio. He's got an experience in the special education world. So as a teacher in a classroom with some of the most profound level 3 super struggling high schoolers, middle schoolers with autism. And so right away in the interview, we get into that and the lessons learned from that were really the catalyst to his book, Special Days, which is unique and just really something I think a lot of you families are going to want to pick up and dig into. And then his podcast, the Unspecial podcast, which not only shares his experience from serving the special needs and autism world, but his experience as a dad and as a believer. And just, it's incredible. It's just a podcast. It's a book. Today's conversation goes 100% of the time into a lane that few do. all of the majority of the resources out there are for your child and helping them heal. And here's the strategies, and here's the health, and here's the science. That's even what I talk about the majority of the time. But we have to, and that's a tough word, I know, but we have to make sure we always check in on, how are you doing, mom and dad? What is there for us from a support and empowerment? How do we heal? How do we stay healthy? How do we stay strong through the storm? And so what's incredible about Zack is he just has stepped up and he serves right there. That's our conversation from the beginning to the middle to the end of this one. You'll be blown away as to where and why and when his podcast actually started. I won't steal any thunder of that story. Every single stinking component and chapter of this man and his family story is truly unbelievable. Multiple times during this interview, and it takes a lot to leave me, not talking and speechless, but there were just a lot of times where I was like, I don't know what to say. This is just so transformative and so incredible. So this dude, incredible dad of 4, he's on truly a God-sized mission to support parents of children with autism. And he combines faith, experience, creativity. And here's why he's on our podcast as well, because without this, we don't serve your family. Practical strategies to help families navigate life with hope, faith, and a forward-moving mentality and action strategy. He's got some incredible recent experience with PX Docs and Neurologically-Focused Chiropractic Care. He's been serving in this world for a long time. I didn't even know that we existed, but now in his family, him and his family are experiencing some really radical, just touch your heart and make it smile changes. And so I will stop now with the introduction with my fellow dad, fellow bro. I had been light on sharing the dad perspective and the parent perspective, and now we're going to catch up and close that gap, because this entire interview is for you, mom and dad, and it will change your life. So don't miss a minute of it. Listen all the way through it, and make sure you grab his book, Special Days, and make sure you tap into the Unspecial podcast as well. Those links will be in the show notes. We love you. We're so grateful for you. Please keep sharing this podcast far and wide. Nobody delivers hope, answers, real life stories, real life strategies, and real life drug-free help quite like we do. And if you haven't left a review yet on Apple or Spotify, man, that would help us out tremendously. We are not only coming close to our 200 episodes released, we're actually getting really, really close to the top 200 ranking on Apple Health and Wellness. And guys, nobody else at all, maybe one or two, and they kind of go surface level. Nobody in that top 200 is actually talking about the health of our kids. We are a very unique podcast that the world needs massively, and we need your help making it happen. When you share this, on your Instagram stories and on Facebook, but especially when you go in there and give it 5 stars and give it a review, that really helps us break through and climb into that place where we can make even more impact in the world, which is what Zack, which is what every one of you I know does too. When you wake up in the morning, it's just simply, that's the mission. How can I go reach more kids and families with this message? How can we get them connected to neurologically focused chiropractors and the care and the interventions they need to heal? And how can we build a movement in a community around this mission God has called us to do? I am so thankful to each of you who listen to every episode, listen to all my neurology, all my farmer stories, and all the craziness. And then especially thankful when you share it and when you leave a review. It truly does mean the world to me. Let's dig in with Zack. All right, Zack. Well, they got your fancy intro there. I know it's a podcast, so they can't see how beautiful, brilliant, and legendary manly your beard is, unless they're watching on YouTube. But you're getting after it every day with your 4 kiddos, with the podcast, with this mission and vision you are on. So for parents who are going to be meeting you, getting to know you for the first time, there's nothing more important than that, that origin story, right? That spark and that catalyst into this work and this service that you do. So I can't wait to unpack even like the name and the title and the purpose behind the Unspecial podcast. But where did it all get started, brother man?
Yeah, it got started way back in, 2016 when I started teaching special ed. I taught 7 years of a life skills class, so profound autism. And that's kind of where my heart is. That's who I connect with. It was long days, it was violent. It was all non-speakers, and it was intense many days. We'd have staff going to the ER on multiple occasions.
Yeah.
And a couple years in, I started in high school and got my feet wet. And then I moved to middle school. And in middle school, it seemed like there was, it was kind of the point in a parent's journey where they're through the early years and all the uncertainty and denial is kind of gone. And then they get to the middle school years and it's like, it's the time. Like, is this their future, or are they going to snap out of it? And then it was like a weird pressure on the teacher to fix it all and change it all. And I'll never forget, I was sitting in an IEP meeting. I was teaching in a very litigious district, and lawyers are there, the cameras were there, it was recorded, and it was super intense. And I remember getting out of that meeting and the mom just sobbing. And I went up to her and I said, how are you doing? And then she's just like, I can't handle these meetings. They're so negative and yada, yada. And at that moment, I was like, man, I think there is a whole side of the special needs journey that nobody realizes, and that lies with the parents.
Yeah.
All the services, all the attention, everything is on how to fix their child. And getting in those meetings and parents hearing all those things, it's like detrimental. So that was 7 years ago. And I thought, there's got to be a space for these parents to share their story and share their journey. And then hopefully by sharing it, they're going to hear other parents' stories and their journey and find some hope in what they deal with every day. And so I sat on it for 6 years.
Okay.
At that time, too, I was volunteering at a high school ministry at our church. And I had about 12, 15 guys in my small group. And I would get home from school, and we would sit around the bonfire, and I would share stories with them.
Yeah.
And they would be like, you got to write these stories down. These are hilarious. And so I just started jotting them down. And I ended up over 5 years completing that book for special needs parents. And it's 12 stories from the classroom. And I relate it back to the Bible and how when I started to look for God in my days, everything shifted. My perspective changed. And so I put it all in a book. It's out there. It's called Special Days. And
man,
that's the goal with that book.
Oh, let me dig right into the weeds here, buddy. I feel like I'm probably one of the most annoying podcast interviewers because I've been taking case histories, looking for minutia, space between the notes, root cause things that nobody else, pays attention to. So I'm probably this like super granular podcast interviewer where people are like, what do you want to know that for, man? But I feel like a lot of times, the most powerful part of the punch is in those, granular details with this. So, okay, every day, because that's what a couple of things catch my ear there. So when you are serving special needs families and especially really profound, intense cases, whether you're a provider or whether especially if you're in schools and you're with them all day, and then double down, whatever exponential number down when you're parenting and you're with them each day, that the conversation you really want help with is not the big picture, the diagnosis, explain things to me. It's like literally just help me day to day. Day to day is exhausting. Day to day is a grind. Day to day is really adding up to me. And so what you found and what you said right there is I need to and began to look for God every day, not just on Sunday, right? And not just in your quiet time. So give us some examples. Give us one of the examples out of, okay, I'm in the thick of it. We're serving these kiddos at this age where sometimes it can get so rough physically. Somebody's going to the ER. That can't be the easiest place to look for God each day. So can you unpack that just a bit, Zack, and maybe even share an example to bring it to real life?
Yeah, a story that comes to mind is I had a student. He was 6'4", 240, big kid. He had 3 staff to just him, and he had some very, very violent behaviors. And I'll never forget, one day he showed up to school, and he didn't want to get out of the car. And we're trying everything and anything to get him out of the car just to get to school. And he starts punching the window. And it's like his hand starts bleeding. It's getting really bad. All the administration comes, ambulance come. The whole scene is unfolding, and the most powerful thing happened is his dad shows up, and he gets in the car with his son. And I remember watching it like, this guy is crazy. How is he getting in the car right now? He's gonna get destroyed. And he sat next to his son, and he didn't do anything. He just sat there. And his presence was everything in that moment. And I remember watching that unfold. And then in the midst of it, this is when I was looking for God in all my days. And I was thinking like, man, this is what God does with us. When we're sitting here in our mess, we're spinning out of control. He simply, over and over again in the Bible, it says, I will never leave you or forsake you. And I remember watching the example of this dad sitting with his son and thinking like, that's what God does with us. Yeah. And that was probably one of the most profound experiences I had.
He just sits with us. I promised you before we started recording, and in the introduction for everybody listening, I said, okay, I've been messing up a little bit here lately. I haven't been sharing from the dad perspective so much, or as much as I want, because I just can't wait to talk about neuroscience. And so when I think about that and I play that scenario in my head, I see 1000% God's calming presence through that father. And then, okay, a little bit of science. And then I see, wow, what a dad who could clearly keep his nervous system in check, right? He must have found vagal nerve tone. He must have found parasympathetic activation. And the nerd word for that is just co-regulation, right? And co-regulation, there's 2 things that are newly obsessive with us in the Experience Miracles podcast and the PX Docs platform that I feel like we talked a little bit about in the past, and now we're just really committed to not shutting up about. And that is, number 1, exactly what you do best in class. Serve those parents. Reach out to them, provide them support, provide them access to support. That we're going to continue to unpack that, because the parents and oftentimes the siblings are just, the underserved, to put it lightly, understated there in that way. The second one is co-regulation. It is a absolute neurological cheat code to getting our kids calmer and more regulated, is looking at the folks who are around them. My wife's cousin, she is a special education. She does what you do and has your training. And this year she got her first classroom, right? They got older and went through it. And I had and she comes out here. She's super close with us and she babysits our kids. So we had an event the other weekend, and before we left, she serves the autism community. I serve the autism community. So we always have great chats. And I just wanted to see how she's doing. I knew she was stepping into another level of it, right? Right. And I said, how are the kids doing? And she goes, great. I said, well, how's the whole thing going? She said, awful. And I was like, how are these 2 going together? What's happening? And she said, all the adults in the room are an absolute mess. So the aides and the paras, right, and the support, they're just so stressful and so negative. And so I found myself talking about co-regulation, with cousin Aaron, and saying, hey, maybe there's some ways I can give you some information where they probably just don't even know that they're getting in there and stirring the pot, right? And how powerful that is. So anyways, we'll come back to that. Okay. My start with it, this is crazy. When I started to tap into the Unspecial podcast and the work that you do, it took me back. When I first started to serve the autism community, I got on the board. It's called Options and Advocacy around here. Had no clue what I was doing, dude. None. No training, no nothing. I just knew my farmer mentality. I needed to serve. They had this program. So that's where we served kids with autism and special needs. And all the board meetings were about, hey, what do we do for them? What do we do for them? There was this program that was run out of ONA called Sib Shops, right? It was a monthly meetup for siblings. And it always seemed like, one, that was the forgotten pun intended, middle child, they would like sneak it into the board meeting in overtime. And then people would be like, well, if we do it, who cares? And then I remember raising my hand and being what about parents shop? Is there a support group? And I still today, after all these years later, I can readily, unfortunately admit, like, our practice doesn't do enough to provide that support place for parents, And so this was such an exciting interview for the team and I, because now let's take it from the book to the podcast. So now you sat on this, you've got this, you serve in this way, and you knew that was an underserved population. What were the next couple of gears? After the book came what?
Well, so it all unfolded going back, let's see, to April of 24. And we were pregnant with our fourth child. We're living in Sandpoint, Idaho. We moved there in 2020 from San Diego. We're living in Sandpoint. The wife's pregnant. She's having some complications. And I own a construction business up in Sandpoint still. And I was at work one day. The kids were at VBS. I get a call that my wife is in so much pain she can't get up. So I leave the job site. I go, and, it's our fourth kid. So we're like, this is it. Her body's done. We can't do this anymore. We start seeing a pelvic floor specialist. Nothing's working. We get a call from the midwife one day. Immediately go to the ER. Her hemoglobin was at like 6 point something. Should be around 10.
Yeah.
And she gets a blood transfusion. And then 2 months go by. She gets four or five transfusions. They can't figure out what's going on. And then August of 2024, on her birthday, 25 weeks pregnant, she's diagnosed with stage 3 rectal cancer. And that kind of, everything was going pretty good in our life at that point. I had a second business I was doing, and it's changed everything. We left Idaho, came to San Diego for more treatment, and the baby stayed in till 29 weeks. He came out, spent 9 weeks in the NICU, but during that 4 weeks where he was still in the womb, we were in the hospital for 50 days. And I remember sitting there, and I'm much like you. I can't sit still.
Yeah.
So staring at the wall in a hospital, and we don't, that's not our scene. Like our whole life, we've been very root cause, holistic, like that's not our jam.
San Diego to Idaho is a bit of a tell on how your health and wellness, journey is. Yeah.
It's like my wife's greatest fear is to end up in a hospital.
Yep.
And here we are sitting there, and I'm talking to her, and I'm like, I don't know, I'm losing my mind here. Like, and she's just like, why don't you start your podcast? And I was like, no, I can't do that right now. Are you kidding me? And she's like, I think it's the perfect time. I mean, you're bored. You've got a cell phone. You just look something up and start it. So my brother-in-law, I hit him up because I'm not tech savvy. It's not my thing. And he got me everything set up, and I started having podcasts. Started at the hospital on my cell phone.
You recorded the first podcast in the hospital.
Well, the first one I actually recorded at my in-laws in their RV. That was the studio.
Okay. I've heard of podcasts starting in, hey, it's in my closet, or it's in my walk-in, or it's in my basement. But this is the very first hospital meets in-laws RV cell phone. Oh, this is amazing, brother. Keep rolling.
Yeah, and the first handful I just had on buddies, educators, and then parents that I knew, and it was quickly becoming evident on the timing of this podcast starting, because sitting there and listening to parents share their journey of having a special needs child and the hardships and the life that they live, every single podcast I would get out of, and it was teaching me more than I could have ever asked for. And here I was thinking, oh, I'm going to open up a space for parents to be seen and heard, but which happened.
Right.
But on the flip side, it was speaking to me. And then I just started digging into so many new parent stories. And the podcast, I think, turned 1 year old today.
Awesome. Man.
We've recorded 60. I do, one a week.
Yeah.
And I can't get enough of it.
Yeah.
These parents live such an incredible life. And to see them show up day in and day out, it helps me because I don't have a special needs child. But walking next to my wife through a cancer journey, and then 4 kids under 9 and all the stress and trauma they deal with.
Yeah.
It's like.
Yeah. And the baby born, 9 weeks early as your wife was going through a cancer diagnosis. So you guys, and we'll get to that. We'll get to, the man, Dr. Stan, who's been on this podcast, and you guys getting in and getting access. It's a few chapters down from here. But yeah, there's a lot of continued healing that needs to happen proactively to just stay ahead of the storm, right? And the more you know about that, that's kind of the blessing of service, is the more you know about that, the more you can become empowered and active in that for your own family. And so, yeah, coming back to these parents, without a doubt, that is the very first thing I noticed is what a parallel, what a path that God knew he was doing for us the whole time, right? He knew why you sat on it for 5-6 years. He that timing, which you probably couldn't have explained it all real clear in that time, is clear as day now. So what's crazy is when you really are paying attention, you find both at the same time. You find, oh my goodness, these parents, these families are really going through it each day. It's that unimaginable. How do they? And then you look for answers to that question, and you find through faith that God promised us that it would not be easy, and that fortitude and resilience are the best path forward, right? And they're really built on faith. And then over here, me and my nerd friends in the neuroscience world, well, we really have known forever within chiropractic that health, good health, healing, recovery. So let's say we're facing a storm and a diagnosis, so we want to get to the other side and then stay health and wellness. It's not built upon the avoidance of the storm. It's built entirely on the ability to overcome and to build resilience and adaptability. And so it's like the simplest comp is a fever in a baby is not bad. In fact, a fever in a baby quite often is essential to build up the muscle of that immune system. And so the strongest people we know, the most resilient people we know, the most brilliant people we know are those parents and those people serving in this community, right? So their stories, to call them powerful is another, what is that, my 10th understatement of the podcast already, So I can't wait. Everybody, you could probably imagine we are going to, and this is a link you must hit. You got to get into the book Special Days. You got to be a downloader, subscriber, review leaver of the Unspecial podcast. I have just been soaking it up as I've gotten to know these guys over the last couple of weeks. So, okay, love this. Now let's talk about healing. And again, truth be told, it's like business and it's like parenting. Everybody's journey is different, but the basic building blocks, there's a lot of stuff that translates. We're healing from cancer. We're healing from autism. We're healing from autoimmune. Healing has a journey to it. Healing has a mentality to it. And then healing has, an action plan to it. So talk us through what you and your incredible wife, no wonder you started a podcast. She told you to do it. What else are you going to do? Yeah, totally. I think it seems a lot like my life. I brought up the idea to Christina and Morgan, and others, and they're like, yeah, you're doing it. And I was like, no, guys, we were just going to discuss this. This wasn't like, you're doing it. And I was like, I'm doing it, aren't I? So from Western medicine, you got to go in those worlds, right? You said hospital for 50 days. 2, you've traveled to Mexico. You've got a neurologically-focused chiropractor in San Diego. I know this is a big question, brother, but walk us through the healing journey so far. What are you learning that you share with others? What matters most in this journey?
Well, number one, I think you got to really get back to just how amazing the human body is. And how it is designed to heal itself. And I knew all this all along. But yeah, we ended up in the hospital. And, Western medicine, I will say, it had its place.
Yep.
It saved my baby and it saved my wife. Beyond that, not so much. It was the entire time with Western medicine, it was very like doom and gloom. Like, you are going to die if you don't do this. And in the moment, and amidst all the fear, like that is the most devastating thing we could have heard, because we're in like dire time for answers. And so my wife did go through she did 2 rounds of chemo with baby Jack still in the womb. After the second round of chemo, we were supposed to get discharged from the hospital. She developed an infection near the tumor site. They did an emergency surgery. There was an abscess on the tumor. They did emergency surgery, drained it. 2 days later, emergency C-section. Brought Jack out. And at that moment, both times she left the hospital room, they gave us a minute in the room because they said, I don't know if she's coming back. And I'm like, oh, like, what? What are you supposed to do with that? Second time, when the baby was coming out, I went to the OB and I'm like, what are you up against? He's like, we have no idea. Just have a minute and we hope for the best. Thankfully, by the grace of God, everything worked out. Baby came out, spent all the time in the NICU. Reka, my wife, she, after that, did 25 rounds of radiation every day for 5 weeks, every weekday. During that time, Jack was in the NICU, so we would go to radiation, about an hour drive, and then we would go see Jack in the NICU. It was Groundhog Day. And then she did 5 more rounds of chemo. And that was the most miserable experience ever. For like, you get chemo, essentially she's near death, 3 days, comes back to. It was very traumatic for the kids to see mom, in bed for 3 days, can't do anything. And then at that point, they told us we have no other option other than surgery. The tumor was still 10 centimeters. It was in a very, very invasive surgery. But during that time, I had started looking holistic. This can't be the only option. And I remember asking the oncologist when they proposed the surgery, I was like, you're telling me there's nothing else you can do? And I think that was his little hint to me, as he responded and said, that's all we know to do here.
Yeah,
that's here. Here. And so I was like, oh, he's telling me to do something else. So long story short, I attended an autism conference with Tracy Slepcevich, Autism Health. And I went to that just to network and learn about autism. And I learned that a lot of the therapies for autism are the same for cancer.
Yes, sir.
And I went to all the scientists at the event, and I said, hey, what would you do if your wife had cancer? And all of them said, go to Hope for Cancer in Tijuana, Mexico, Hope for Cancer. And during the whole process, I had so many people texting me and calling me on like, you should do this for your wife. You should do this for your wife. And my whole prayer the entire time was like, if it keeps coming up, then I think I'm hearing from God, like this is the next path to lead my family.
Okay, that's huge, brother. I won't do, because when you do in today's digital world where we can awesomely reach out for help and resources, there's awesome and then there's overwhelm, right? Because you're like, there's so many things that are going to come in as an option. You do have to have a prayer. You have to have a plan. You have to have some sort of algorithm that's like, otherwise you're just going to run sideways in 72 directions at the same time, right? So you did find that through prayer, you were able to be patient and say, okay, we're going to create this as the plan if something keeps coming up. And had others said Tijuana quite a few times?
Yeah, a lot were saying it early on, and it was like we couldn't even wrap our mind around it because it was so like no hope.
Yeah.
And so we got to that point where like we're not doing surgery. We can't do that right now. At the least, we need to exhaust every option possible and get the tumor as small as possible, so maybe it's not as invasive. So we ended up going to Mexico, 3 weeks long. When we got to Mexico, her liver was shot, like from all the chemo and radiation, and she could hardly walk. But the vibe at this clinic in Mexico is hope. So that's one of the biggest things I think in a healing journey is you get so wrapped up in the physical, but it's very mental and very spiritual. Mm. And so when you start to lean into that and you start to be around people that are speaking hope and you expect miracles, it shifts something in your brain, and then I don't know all the science, but this is my street knowledge, is your cells start to respond.
They do.
And so at that clinic, 3 weeks in, at the very end, she could hardly walk. We had a walker. In 3 weeks, her liver back to normal. The tumor shrunk 2 centimeters. Chemo in 4 months shrunk at 1 centimeter. And we walked 2 miles on the streets of Tijuana with no walker.
Yeah.
In 3 weeks.
3 weeks after, you know, add up all the numbers you said, all the time that accrued in the hospital with all the sessions. And again, like you said, there's a line in the sand where it's like, okay, they're going to come in doom and gloom. You know, we always say, you know, the fire department, they're going to come with the axes and the fire hoses and the surgeries and the chemos and the radiations. And the problem is they don't know how to stop blasting down doors, you know, and they don't know how to turn the friggin' fire hydrant off, right? And just stop blasting that physically. And then at some point, there's this line in the sand, whether it's our babies in the NICU or a cancer healing journey or autism, where you just have to say, thank you for getting us here. She's alive. Now it's time to heal. Now it's time to tap into hope dealers, not hope stealers. Now it's time to tap into those vibes that create it. And it's the freaking best, man. I have told, this is literally down to the design of a PX doc's office. And it's the design of the layout. We talk about it from a location. We talk about it from freaking the openness, the paint, but most importantly, it has everything to do with the people inside of it, right? Not just the practitioners. I tell my team all the time, I said, if we're doing our job fully, the best we can do it, if a patient walks in here, and usually, again, they're leaving the medical system, right? So they've been stuck in the storm, not only with the diagnosis and the conditions, but they've been stuck around all these hope stealers. And so we're looking to be as transformative in our vibes as can be. Like, we're looking to call it the opposite, whatever's more than that. That's what we're shooting for, right? And we use HRV, and we'll go there next, because you now have your kiddos. You've all gotten scanned. You know about these inside scans. You know about nervous system care, and it's really become that missing link for your family. And I can't wait to have you share that. But imagine this, because this is real, and you now know it. If we were to have everybody come in, and they're in that state of absolute shutdown, beat up, you know, just looking for a glimmer of hope, and then they get dosed. You know, we'll stick with the fire hydrant, but this one's kicking out good stuff. And they walk into a hope dealership, and it is just wow, right? And we just hit you with it. And it's hope, and it's empowerment, and it's belief and trust in the body is designed to heal. And it's all we're talking about. We're building a plan forward, and it's just this freaking, you know, overwhelm in the best of ways of hope. When we use our inside scans, they measure the amount, the severity of stress on the nervous system. I tell my team all the time, if we're doing our job correctly on day one, we don't adjust. We just run those baseline scans. If we were to literally have them walk in the door first, and we don't say anything, we don't do anything, we run the scans. We actually get a baseline. This is how your nervous system, this is how your resiliency, your adaptability is doing. And then we can somehow like rewind the clock 15 minutes, have that baseline scan, have them walk in again, and we do our Experience Miracles welcome and tour without adjusting. And I'm not trying to minimize the power of, hey, I know at Hope for Healing, you know, you had a lot of things done that were powerful too. Right. If we then reran the inside scans and the HRV at the end of the visit with having done, quote unquote, nothing other than dealt hope at its highest dosage, scans would be better. Scans would be better. You can literally, there's a few studies that have done it with prayer. There's actually studies with HRV being done. There's one that was done. It was kind of a poorly done study, but you got to imagine chiropractors and churches don't do studies as well as pharmaceutical companies who are going to rake billions, you know. They're a little more prim and proper than us, Zach, in the way they do their studies. But there's literally even studies that have been done. Oh, I just lost the stinking word. When other people pray for you. What is the word for that?
Intercede?
Yes, intercession. Yeah, intercessionary. It's a hard one. Yes, intercession. Other people praying for you, and you don't even know them. They've actually done studies that people's HRV, so measure of resiliency and healing capacity, they actually improve even when you have people you don't know praying for you.
Oh.
So, yeah, I did a whole podcast episode. And if everybody's listening to our podcast, even if you're a new time listener here to the Experience Miracles podcast, Hope is Where the Healing Begins is the podcast title of the one. I went off on that. I went into all the neuroscience and everything because I've always known it. And then I was like, if I'm going to do a podcast about this and I'm, the science guy, there's some incredible research behind what we're talking about. And you got it full send when you went south of the border there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Amazing. What was it like? So transfer that perfect segue into Dr. Stan's office. So probably similar vibes, I love Stan. He's the freaking best, man, and his crew. So what was that experience like? And what has neurologically focused chiropractic care done for your family? I know it's newer, but that's kind of fun. You're early in the journey. So what's that been about?
Yeah, it's been wild. So when we were in Mexico, I got a text from a buddy and he said, hey, you should go check out chiropractic care. And in the moment, I'm like, I've seen chiropractors my whole life. And I didn't know the connection to the nervous system. That was how limited my knowledge was. So I got his text and then I looked up who he sent me to, and it was Dr. Stan. And I'd been following him on social media. And so I was like, oh, I kind of know this guy. I've seen, I see all this stuff. And I was like, oh, that's cool. He's that close to us. But then I didn't think anything of it. And so 3 months went by. And then I had a podcast with one of the guests, and Tommy, he runs a podcast, Spectrum and Camouflage. And he started talking about a PX doc his son was seeing. And within weeks, he was starting to say words. And I was like, whoa, hold up. What are you talking about? And he said, it's PX Doc, it's nervous system chiropractic care. It's completely different than a chiropractor. They're actually focusing on your nervous system. And this whole time, my wife, now I'm getting fired up. My wife had been telling me, like, I know my nervous system is out of whack and I can't get it under control. She's like, I know I'm in fight or flight. Like she's way more scientific and knows all this stuff. And then I talked to Tommy, and then I'm like, oh, there's something to this. And then little did I know, 3 days later, I had a scheduled podcast with Dr. Hafer, PX Doc in Eagle, Idaho. And when I looked up her bio and everything, I was like, this is the chiropractic care that Tommy was talking about. And she comes on my podcast and just blows my mind.
She's an OG. Yeah.
I listened through it. I'm like, I sounded like a little kid. I was just like, are you kidding me? That can all happen with chiropractic care? Yep. And then that was it. I learned from her, and I text my buddy, and I'm like, yo, I need to go see this chiropractor. And Dr. Hafer was like, oh, Dr. Stan's the guy for sure. So I signed the whole family up. We just went for it, got them all in there. And within, I have a 9-year-old, a 7-year-old, a 4-year-old, and baby Jack. He's 1 now. Within days, we're seeing a difference. My 9-year-old, so for a year, they had tons of trauma and stress. We were living with my in-laws. Their life was completely unpredictable. And mom is in and out of life, essentially, the whole time. And they're very shy. So in my mind, I'm like, I need a therapist, wouldn't do anything. And then once I started learning about all the neurological-focused chiropractic, I'm like, this is it. If we can get their nervous system in check, then it's going to just do wonders. My 9-year-old would have crazy meltdowns that would last an hour plus. Like he just could not function. Three weeks into care, I look at my wife and I'm like, has Reef had a meltdown in a while? And she's like, I don't think he has. And he's still a kid, so he will have, but it would be like 2 minutes long.
Yeah, not an hour. No.
And I think we're 5-6 weeks in now. He still hasn't had one. My 7-year-old Naya, she is the word we were using for her for the past year is she's subdued. Like she's just trapped. And she's not a real outspoken. So she's like just subdued. Within a week, it's like that's the joke with Dr. Stan is it's Naya 2.0. Like she's running around, she's goofing around, her laughter's back. She's just like she's Naya again. And then Poppy, my 4-year-old, She she's a wild one, so we're still good. She's just, third child. She's just wild case. But what has the shift we've seen with her is nothing really calmed her down before, but now like she'll come to us and let us like co-regulate, like we were talking about, and it'll stabilize her. Jack, he's the biggest one, 1-year-old, and even buddies were like, "You're taking your 1-year-old to chiropractor?" I'm like, "Dude, chiropractor's the wrong word."
Yes,
Like
that's what people have told us for 20 years. I can't even tell you the number of patients that come in and they're like, "You might want to come up with a new word." And I was like, I don't think legally that I can, but I agree with you. I would love to do that. Yes.
Yeah. Like, you can adjust a baby?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it doesn't take much pressure. And he's had a very adventurous life. And within days, he's like babbling more. He's like, he had no personality. He was very stoic. And with my special ed background, I'm like hyper vigilant on watching his mannerisms and like what's going on. And so he starts babbling. He starts crawling around more. He starts laughing. He starts playing. He starts chasing toys. Like, he didn't do any of that. And then there's still the doubters like, well, he's just growing up. I'm like, no. That doesn't happen in a week.
Yeah. That's like when we checked out of the hospital. I'll never forget this one. Really, really highly educated, super smart moron in a white coat. And I can't say it anywhere. I told you we were going to talk as two dads today. And, we've lived these journeys. So you just got to, we serve our communities with telling the flippant truth, right? And we have a little bit of fun with it. It's even better. And so Oliver, he had this MRI, which clearly showed the damage. And then the next MRI upon checkout was gone. He had EEGs, which showed this burst suppression seizure pattern, which is as bad as it gets. And then that was gone. He was off all of his medication. So the list is going on, right? They're like checking it. It's like you're checking out, like you're leaving camp, and they're like, "You got all your items?" And I was like, "Actually, no. We lost all of his diagnosis, all of his seizures, and all of his medications. You want to talk about it? I've been here for 6 weeks trying to explain to you exactly how neurologically focused pediatric chiropractic works, and you haven't been listening. How about now?" That was kind of the feeling in my gut. I was like, "This is your last chance, potato chip, to pick up what I'm putting down." And got to be honest, me, the hope dealer, didn't have a lot of hope for him. And turns out that part of me was right, because he goes, "Man, sometimes these spontaneous idiopathic recoveries really are something." I was like, "Did you just pull that out of your posterior sacrum," which is another word for ass? And, and it was, I didn't have any more in me at that time, Zach. I had spent 6 weeks battling for, hey, you saved my son's life. Right? Just like for you. So it was this just indescribable mix of like gratitude and unbelievable frustration. Like, how can you literally not see what's right in front of your face? And, and so at that moment, it was just like, you said, we're out of here, right? Pick up Oliver, grab the car seat, grab our little man, and, see you later. And hopefully one day we can come back together and get you guys over there to make sense of this. So yeah, because that's what I was so stoked to hear about today, because I knew, as we've been setting this up and getting going, and I've been getting to know you and you getting to know PX Docs, I knew you guys had got started. And I want to actually pull apart a little bit of neuroscience on this too, that I'm sure Dr. Stan has been explaining. You guys have done both this whole time. You have, yes, been through so much stinking trauma, right? And that word is true. You've been through so much. The kids have been through so much. Life turned upside down, like you said, every day, unpredictable, and seeing mama go through it and all the things. And then on the other side, I want to make sure we speak power into this, dude. You guys live healthy. You have always had faith. You've always known that the power can heal. You've always, I'm sure, sought out to put good food into your kids. You probably have avoided the majority of medical interventions that are forced upon most kids, right? So even though you didn't have neurologically focused chiropractic care up until about 5-6 weeks ago, it doesn't surprise me at all that your kids and your family end up becoming what we call fast responders. When you put adjustments into a family that is full of love and faith and empowerment and good nutrition and great community, they just take faster. They're going into a system that needs it, but they're going into a system that has momentum in a lot of ways too. And so each of those stories, it's hard for me. I can't wait to meet your family one day, man. I get to experience those stories all day, every day. And still, after all these years in a freaking podcast trying to talk about it, I still don't have words to say how cool that really is. But we're not done yet. What about you and your wife? What about you guys with your adjustments? What are you experiencing?
Yeah, so I've dealt with neck pain for 20 years. I played college golf, and believe it or not, you can get injured playing golf. It's
the worst sport ever for your spine. Hey, grab the club, rotate awkwardly, and then slam the club into something.
Right. And then you hit it wrong, and it compounds the problem.
That part I have down. That part of my golf game, hitting it wrong, locked in, bro. Totally locked in.
Right. And so I was seeing a chiropractor all through college, and that was my understanding of chiropractic care, just chase the pain. And I never got answers. I never understood. It was just kind of like, am I going to be doing this the rest of my life? Just to get adjusted when I have pain and then walk away. And then 4 months later, my neck hurts. I'll go back and adjust it, blah, blah. And so from the 6 weeks, like consistently, I mean, we're on a 6-month plan. We're going 3 days a week right now. And I work out pretty intensely every morning. My neck feels great. So, sometimes I sleep on it wrong. But the understanding now is I just never knew that everything was connected to your entire body. Yeah. And so knowing those things, but I think the biggest shift in me is I have like a more state of calm. For the last year, I'm running and gunning at all moments. Right now, I'm homeschooling the 3 kids. I have my podcast business. I have a construction business. Yeah. I'm caring for my wife. There's a lot going on, and to like show up every day in more of a calm and be able to be there for my kids. Yeah, I've seen that biggest shift, and I'm not so quick to fire. Whereas like the littlest things, I was always on edge for a year plus. So that's been the big shift for me. And my wife, recently she's starting to feel a lot more pain, which probably there's a lot of science to that. But what I've noticed with her is in the past, when the pain would come, her mind would become very fearful. And it's been crazy to watch her, because even though she's in some pain, she has a peace about her. Okay. And she just got rescanned. We haven't seen the results, but Dr. Stan peeked at him and was like, oh, it's improving. We'll talk about it. But that's been the craziest thing to watch with her.
That's amazing.
The hope and the peace.
Yeah, that makes, and if someone were to truly, as a dad for kids, all the things we do, if someone were to make me fill out a multiple choice and say, what's your favorite thing about getting adjusted to yourself? That's my answer too, dude. Dad to dad, dude to dude. Physically, I same thing. I love to work out and do the farm stuff, and I have all the injuries and everything else. So it's awesome to feel better physically, right? You got a little pain or tension, whatever, to have it go away. That pales in comparison to just I got a lot going on. And when I come home, I want to still have energy. I still want to have the connection and the calm. And, I just want to be that happy, joyful, calm, conversational, connection, relational dad with my kids that I can be with everything else. And I think a lot of us dads and parents, we just give and give and give, and we can kind of hold it together, with our team or with at work, whether it's your own company or you work for one, or with everybody else in life. And then unfortunately, home is that safe space, but sometimes home then becomes that dysregulation space where the shortness, the snappiness, the frustration, the sensitivity comes. And so it's really a superpower of getting adjusted to just put parents in a more adaptable, I call it slack, right? You got more slack in your rope to take everything on. And for your wife, what's so cool about that now? See, Dr. Stan, we'll see how Dr. Stan's report is here. All right. Tony versus Stan right here. Who's nerdier? Just kidding. He's about freaking homie. But when you go through what your wife has, we see this with epilepsy, we see this with chronic pain. It's in a case like that, the core presentation of the problem doesn't just drop off the map and go away in the first 6 weeks. But what does happen is when you have these patterns of this primary issue return, or you're facing them, you face them differently. They don't bog you down as much. They don't take you off track as much. You recover and push through them faster with a greater mindset. And what that is, that's a dead giveaway to the actual healing is happening from the inside out. Usually pain, especially, is kind of the last thing to show up, but then it's the last thing to go too. The body has to truly heal through those layers from the inside out. So what if, and then I'm sure her scans are going to look so good in terms of rebuilding that health as well. You get that kind of information in the early stages like that. And for us clinically, like as the clinicians, that's all we need to know. We are on the path. And then the hope dealing, the confidence, it hits another gear, even coming from us, because we have real objective data through the patient's life story. Hey, things are happening. And then real objective data through the scans. Hey, healing is happening. So it's fun, man. I can't wait to keep track of your guys' journey. Next question here, brother. When you go after it, as you do with the podcast, and the way you now have chosen to support these parents and families, you have it listed here, medically, physically, spiritually, and mentally. So you're going for it. You're not just focusing on, one leg of the stool, right? You choose to, and I've listened to the episodes. You do. You take a broad run with everybody that comes on. And like, hey, let's get into all the quadrants of this. So what does that look like day to day as a dad to make sure you're trying to look at just not one or two pieces, but be aware of all four of those?
Yeah, the first one, I hope on the podcast, like yourself, to bring hope to families. Yeah. And I think that first has to start with faith. And with faith, everything starts to make sense. I learned pretty quickly in this journey we're on to stop asking why and start asking what. When I was asking why, like, why is this happening? Why do I have to watch this suffer? Why do my kids have to go through this? It quickly led me into being a victim. And when I shifted into like, what is happening? What is this doing for me? And how is this serving me? It brought me to more of a place of surrender. So that was some powerful experiences I had with that. But yeah, I see out there a lot. There's support for these parents medically. There's support for them with services like therapies. But I haven't found many that hit on mindset and faith. And so my goal is, through my life and the experiences I'm going through, those are kind of everything I wrestle with. So speaking it through my lens to these parents is the angle I'm trying to get to them. And then ultimately, I'm a man of faith. You are too. It's like, at the end of the day, I hope people can see this hope in Christ.
Man, that right there, I just put it on our notes. I'm like, oh, we're putting that one out there and putting that clip on a billboard and sending it far and wide, because that is what's missing. I have been serving in this. I suppose if I choose to add the math to when I kind of started to look into autism and special needs, even back in school, kind of towards the end of it, as God would have it with my chiropractic journey, round up and call it 2 decades, I find everything we've been talking about here is so true. Parents and the rest of the family are kind of the forgotten place that really need healing and really need support. And then I really find this is still happening. Redundancy. Everybody's saying the same thing. You click on an autism podcast, or you go to an autism conference, and it's like, did you guys know about the microbiome and probiotics? And you're like, yeah, I actually did. And if I know autism parents, they know a whole lot more than 99 out of 99 doctors.
Oh, yeah.
And then some. So I've been in a lot of these rooms, and I do my very best. And thankfully, it's the way God made me. I start in 5th gear, and I go right into the neuroscience, and I just get after it and I work hard at it, because I'm like, I don't want them to sit in this room and just, same with the podcast. I don't want them to click on the next episode and hear something they've already heard 55,000 times before. But I've been in those rooms, and I've talked to many parents, and I can be sitting next to, and I'm like, you're not impressed by this presentation, are you? Because you heard it 17 years ago. and you fought yourself to get into this room because you're hoping somebody would teach me something different, right? And hit a different level with it. And this is, there's a few people. Here's the good news. I'm starting, just like we were talking about co-regulation before, I'm starting to see that God is sending more of us into this conversation for this community. That was what was so, enlightening and gave me hope when I got to, jam with you and, our man out of Ohio and everybody else, the camouflage. It's happening. It's absolutely happening. And if a parent can turn around their health and their hope and recommit, or sometimes for the first time, find their faith, the amount of healing momentum that comes on the other side of that, all of those medical things and intervention things that they probably have been doing, but feel like they got stuck in the mud, call it what it is. Oftentimes there goes that mud. Yeah. And away you go. And that stuff starts to really be healing. Okay. Probably unfair because we're already rounded third base. And I know I just love the way you speak about this one. So I can't let us wrap without asking you to share with our audience about this, how heartbreaking it is to see this division. It's all over in the freaking world, right? Especially in our country. And it's always been in the faith community. And then now it's in the autism. This stinking division monster has found itself into the autism community, where those that do want to step up and serve these kids who are subluxated, dysregulated, and neurophysiologically, or medically, if you want to call it that, they're sick. There's a lot of real neurophysiological, right there, we know there are true challenges with autism that contribute then to the social, emotional, behavioral, challenges that come with that. So we've got a lot of families who have level 2, level 3, highly challenged, profound, you were in the classroom challenged. And then we have millions of other kids who are high functioning, right? And they are finding better acceptance, and they are finding better places into this world to be able to succeed and thrive. But they both deserve awareness, yes. Acceptance, yes. Love, yes. Community, yes. But if you're sick, if you're struggling, you deserve interventions that could help you get to the other side of that too. So what do you think is going on here with this division? And then second part of that question, brother man, what do you think it'll take for us to start to bring everybody together again and just see this as a mission we all need to move forward together on?
Yeah, I mean, it's so autism. There's such a, so you have the high functioning side and the profound side, and the realities of these lives are completely opposite. You got this side celebrating and having reveal parties to, glorify their autism. And then you have these families that are barely surviving. And so when they see this side doing that, the word autism, I think, has gotten so convoluted. And when the DSM-5 came out, I think that kind of was the start, and Asperger's went away. What needs to happen is autism needs to be redefined. And I mean, we could go down rabbit holes, but the issue is these profound families aren't seen and they're not heard. And for so long, they've been silenced and gaslit and haven't been able to give a voice. And on their side, they're trying to survive, so they're not advocating as hard as this side, who says autism is amazing.
That's true.
But in my experience, and my heart goes to the profound side, because that's what I taught and that's what I know, is these parents need the most help, and they need the most support, and they need the most resources, but they're being silenced because it's a glorified thing, and it's like, it's really difficult to watch, especially now, because all the, autism in the world is being talked about more than ever, which I think is amazing.
Right.
We're finally starting to get to some root cause problems and issues on what autism brings. And I think that the controversy in it can be settled pretty simply just by saying, every parent wants what's best for their child. And so if you want to find healing for your child, it has to start with the root cause. And now I'm going off, but the people can't hold the two truths. Like, I can't, this side saying, I don't want to take away their autism because it'll change them. But this side is saying, I will absolutely take away their autism because suffering is involved. Regardless, every parent, no parent wants their child to suffer. So let's just start with that baseline. Like, okay, so then healing can happen because we all know that autism is medical and there's a lot of issues in the gut and everything.
Yeah.
And it's hard because I think at time now is the time for the community to come together, but it's doing the exact opposite.
Yeah.
And it's not doing any good for
either
and acceptance.
Yeah. I have a long history with this one too. I used to always do the biggest perfect storm workshop, which is our educational seminar we do here in the community. I've done hundreds of them. And I would always intentionally not do it in April because acceptance and awareness of autism is an awesome first step, but it's an incomplete step to actually serving and supporting the family. So this is just me. I like to probably overcook things, I always make the joke if you eat a steak that I grilled, well, there's no medium rare, brother. You're getting that sucker, you're eating a Frisbee there. So anyways, I would always do it in May, and it was part of the messaging that said, this is a perfect storm action summit. We will start with awareness, and the awareness begins with nobody wants their kiddo to suffer. There's no such thing. There is, according to a diagnostic criteria in the son of a gun DSM-5. So sure, there's mild, there's moderate, there's severe, but when it's your kid, mild is severe too. Severe is just severer. Right? I mean, we all have that as a parent. There's whatever your kiddo is going through, it doesn't need a diagnosis to just absolutely yank and pull on your heartstrings. So every single kiddo with any level of struggle, they deserve our help. So we're putting on this workshop. We do the care we provide for who? All of them. Zero judgment on which is which, just like we're here to serve your kid and to serve your family. So we always did the workshop in May, and that was always the message. Two truths can be true, two different things. Two truths can be held at the same time. We absolutely, son of a gun, love the way that God made your child. Holy cow. I am a sensory ADHD raging bull. You're the way God made you. Your kids are Maya's good. Maya's the third kid in a rock star family. She's going to be as crazy as the day is long. I can't wait to meet Maya, and she sounds like Maya Elena. And, it's just, Maya's number 2, isn't it?
Poppy, yeah.
Poppy, yeah. So my number 3, Elena, and Poppy sound like the same. So anyways, God makes us the way we are. And when we tap into root causes of struggles and we get healing interventions like chiropractic and living healthy, we all get better. We all find a better experience, a calmer, more regulated, more high potential experience in life. And so I absolutely love it. So as we kind of put a bow on that, what we found out today, brother, is we have to read it. We need a new word we need another chiropractor word.
Yes.
It's true, because I've had patients tell me that from year one. They're like, you're like not a chiropractor. I'm like, what is that, like 7-Up? I'm with you, but I need some name suggestions. Drop them in the box on your way out. And it's annoying, by the way, to have to stay a neurologically focused chiropractor. It's a freaking mouthful. It takes me a long time.
It is.
And to type it out, I have like keyboard shortcuts. When I type in NFC on my keyboard, boom, there's neurologically focused chiropractor.
I just said PX doc.
Yep.
I tell everybody. They're like, what's the answer? Like, how are you getting by every day? How's your family getting by? PX doc.
Man.
What is that? Nervous system doc. What do they do? Adjustments. They free you from all the stress that's blocked on your nervous system. And then I very elementary educate them on how important their nervous system is. I'm like, you can go take all the supplements you want, you can go take everything you want, but if your nervous system is not in check, and it's all going to get blocked. So go to the source. Dude,
this is now V2 of the Experience Miracles podcast with Zack Ponder. I am retiring right freaking now on this spot because nobody tends to overcomplicate it and overcook it like me. And you just, Brother, I can't even tell you here live on the podcast, what you said, I'm going to trip over my words here again. That was the dream. I'm looking out on the farm where I was mowing when God first sent me the idea for the PX Talks platform and the podcast. And one of the real strategic, I guess if you call it that, plans was, we know we can't really run out on the brand, if you will. The definition of chiropractic is so convoluted and it's so not this, that we can't really have it be that in Zack's, brain as a parent and other providers. So it was really just this kind of far-fetched plan to put PX Docs on the map. That's what our team, that's our decree, if you will. Like, every day we work hard, let's put PX Docs on the map so that when parents or other providers hear that, literally what you said, dude, verbatim is what the dream has been. I don't know what to say. God is good. God is good.
And I'm so pumped that I came across it. Like, God definitely opened the doors to get us into Dr. Stan's office, and it came at such a perfect time because I knew there was something that we needed in this journey. I guess for any of the guys that are listening, the dads, it's like how to lead your family and where to go next. It comes with just staying, like Psalm 46:10, be still, and just let him show you through different people on where to go. And for me, like, learning about autism and all the therapies, everything, I thought I knew autism. And then I came across you guys in the Experience Miracles podcast, and I binged. I was listening to all of the perfect storm. Like, in my head, I'm like, fine. Everything was connected. All the dots were connected. I'm like, I got to tell everybody.
Man, can we just do a weekly podcast together? Man, you want to start a third podcast? Me and you? Yeah, we'll just
go.
Yeah, totally. We'll get Tommy on there. We got some other dudes who'd probably jump on here and do this with us, right? Man, maybe God will do something exactly with that for sure. Yeah, so we got to redefine, and we have. I guess, truthfully, God has led us to this place where we have created this new long needed form of chiropractic called PX Docs, and it's what these families are looking for sure. We also need to, and we'll continue to get into that autism and special needs community and say, hey, if we got to call it whatever we need to call it to make sure we're here to help, we'll do that too, right? And hopefully the world continues to get better there. It is awesome to see people going after the root cause. It's not just toxins though, right? It's that trauma from pregnancy, it's birth trauma. So that's where, who knows, brother? Maybe you'll see me in Washington, D.C. looking all fancy in a suit, sitting on a committee being like, yo, we're close. You remember Willie Mays Hayes from Major League when he tries to steal second for the first time and he doesn't quite make it into second base? He slides too soon and then he gets tagged out. I feel like that's a lot of the autism community when they're like, it's the gut, it's the microbiome, and da-da-da. And I'm like, oh, Willie Mays Hayes, you're so close. But
close.
It's subluxation is the gap. It's blocking everything. So, all right. So all of this is true and more. Everybody listening, I'm going to ask this brother man one final question before we're done, but you know the drill and follow it on this time. Those show notes are going to have the links to the book. They're going to have the links to the Unspecial podcast. I hope maybe Stan and I will get on there. We'll jam with you on that. Dr. Christie is an OG. So she taught it just right. So maybe we can even link to that episode where you interview Christie and go through that. That'd be a good one to bridge them over to your podcast. And just love what you're doing, and we're going to continue to send our tribe to yours because it is so needed. So in closing, brother man, if you had a parent, show up tonight, right? You're at youth group or you're at church or you're out in your community, and I know you at all times, you're just ready to serve, right? You're always on in all the roles you form. And so you'd be ready for this. If a parent came up and explained, hey, we're in the storm, we're exhausted, we're scared, we're unsure what to do next. I think PX Docs is probably going to make its way into the conversation. I don't know, but what would you tell them? For you, where do they start? What's 1, 2, 3 in that answer?
Oh man, I would probably simply start with just trying to relate with them. How are you doing? Where's that coming from? What are you feeling? I would probably ask a lot of questions at first. Yeah. And then from the answers, I would I never want to should on everybody. So I would start with some experience shares, and kind of number one, you need to talk with your spouse and get on the same page, because your journey and your healing journey isn't going to go anywhere if you guys aren't in agreement. Trying to think back to where it started for us, and definitely instill hope. I think that's the number one biggest thing you can do in trying to help anybody on a healing journey is hope, and just not ever bring in that doom and gloom. Yeah. Like, there is always hope, and God will lead you to where He's going to lead you. And then get a little science on them and get a little nerdy, and tell them to get their nervous system in check.
Dude, come on, the best. And what's so cool is, there's a big question at the end. And then honestly, when you sum it all down, there it is, man. There it is. Get to know him, relate, deal some hope, connect him to God, connect him to a PX doc, party on Wayne, party on Garth, healing's ready to go. Right? That's just how this stuff works. So, Zack, I can't say thanks enough. I'm sure Morgan, this whole time, our podcast producer, is thinking, one, I don't ever want to let him to stop. And two, Tony's never going to stop and let Zack get off of here, because she knows how excited I was to go dad to dad. Because I always actually intentionally, I get enough of the story, but I knew you guys were just newly under care. So I didn't have the updated as to, thank you for taking us through each family member's changes. That was just really transformative. Speaking of relatability, and such a blast chatting with you, man. And I would love to make this not the last time we chat and bring you back on. And I do have visions of doing some live events, some summits, some panels. It would be so cool to have like 3 or 4 of us dads, out there jamming, 3 to 4 moms kind of jamming all together. I think that would be some magical stuff too. So you cool if we find our way to a round 2 in the future here too?
Oh, 100%. I told my wife before I came upstairs, I'm like, I'm kind of nervous. I'm not really on the other side of the mic, and I'm not a science guy, but no, it was an honor to be on. I'm so pumped, and I love everything of Experience Miracles. I mean, it's just in the title. Like,
yes, sir.
Expect them, experience them, and let it go.
Yep, and then we never shut up about them. And yeah, even though I haven't been to San Diego in quite some time after all those years there, I am definitely getting out there with you and Tracy and Stan. So it'll be real soon. I'll get my butt on a plane, head on down to that downtown airport, and hang out with you guys again soon. Sound good?
I'll have some surfboards ready.
Oh, little chubby guy from the Midwest surfing. I've tried it before and failed miserably, but I'll get out there.
I got you.
I'll get out there and try again. I'm ready. All right, big dog. Thank you so much.